What I'm about to share with you is not just another idea to entertain the mind. It is the kind of truth that, once recognized, rearranges how you see yourself, how you see the world, and how you move through every moment of your life. There comes a point where the ordinary explanations of reality no longer satisfy you. You begin to sense that the way you've been told things work, that life is fixed, rigid, predetermined, is only a surface story. And deep inside, perhaps quietly but persistently, you feel a pulse that whispers there is more. That pulse is your consciousness, reminding you of its role as the hidden architect of experience. Most people go through life convinced they are passengers strapped to the train of circumstance, watching helplessly as it barrels down tracks laid by fate, family, or fortune. But what if I told you that the very act of being aware, the very way you place your attention, is what lays the tracks in real time? What if nothing in your environment is fully formed until your awareness breathes life into it? Quantum mechanics shook the scientific world precisely because of this. The famous double-slit experiment revealed something extraordinary. Particles, when unobserved, remain in a state of pure potential. Waves of possibility stretched across infinite outcomes. But the moment a conscious observer looks, the wave collapses into a particle, fixed in place with measurable qualities. This means observation is not passive. It is creative. And this simple realization changes everything. Think about what that implies. You are not a background character reading a script that has already been written. You are the director, the camera, and the stage itself. With each moment of conscious attention, you collapse endless potential into a single scene of lived reality. Reality is not merely happening to you, it is happening through you. But here is where many people misunderstand. They hear this and believe it means they should simply wish harder or think positively for their dreams to appear. That is not how it works. The collapse from possibility into reality does not obey fantasy. It follows laws as precise as gravity. The field of potential responds to coherence, when your focus, your emotions, and your intentions align into one clear signal. This is why fleeting thoughts rarely change much. But consistent, emotionally charged observation does. Let me give you a simple picture. Imagine two people stepping into the exact same circumstance. Both lose their jobs on the same day. Person A immediately observes scarcity. Their inner monologue runs, "I'll never recover. This is proof I'm not good enough." That observation carries fear, frustration, and despair. Person B, facing the same event, observes possibility. Their inner dialogue, "Something greater is opening. This is life redirecting me." That observation carries curiosity, hope, and courage. Same external trigger, completely different internal observation. And so, over time, completely different realities. The field reflects both signals without bias, responding only to what is observed with emotional presence. This is where you begin to see the magnitude of your role. Every morning you wake up, you cast votes for which timeline will stabilize by what you choose to observe. When you immediately revisit your problems, review your limitations, and rehearse the same old story, you are not just describing reality, you are choosing it again. You are collapsing that timeline into being over and over with your attention as the deciding force. And yet hidden inside this truth is incredible liberation. Because if you can unconsciously choose limitation, you can consciously choose expansion. If you can collapse timelines of fear, you can collapse timelines of abundance. If you can stabilize cycles of disappointment, you can stabilize cycles of wonder. The power is not outside you, it never was. The universe is not waiting to test your worthiness, it is waiting for you to direct your gaze. Take a moment and feel this. Your awareness is not small, it is not local, it is not trapped inside your brain. Your awareness is the invisible field through which the universe recognizes itself. The external world you see is a mirror of what you consistently hold inside. And when you finally grasp that this mirror bends to your observation, you stop living as a victim of what seems to be. You start living as a creator of what will be. So here is the invitation at the very beginning of this journey. Become deliberate with your observation. Let each moment remind you that you are casting votes for the future you will inhabit. Notice where your attention drifts. Notice the stories you replay. And then, with compassion for yourself, gently shift the lens. Choose to see potential where once you only saw lack. Choose to see movement where once you only saw obstacles. Each shift, however small, is the quantum act of changing your reality. And if this resonates with you, if something inside feels like it is waking up, remembering a truth you've always carried, then stay with me, because the next steps will take you deeper. Together, we will explore how to align your focus, your feelings, and your intentions into coherence, and how to step into the role of conscious creator you were born to embody. Before we continue, if you feel the spark of this message, I ask you to do one simple thing. Like this video and subscribe, not just as a gesture of support, but as an act of alignment. By choosing to engage, you are declaring, I am ready to shift how I observe reality. That decision alone begins the process of transformation. Now that you've begun to see the magnitude of the observer effect, we can move one step deeper. Because if observation collapses infinite possibility into tangible form, then the natural question arises. How exactly does consciousness choose which possibility becomes real? This is where science and experience meet. What physicists call measurement, you experience every single day as focused attention. And attention is not neutral. It is the brushstroke that paints your reality on the canvas of the quantum field. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at a crossroads. Stretching out before you are countless roads, one where you thrive in joy, one where you repeat the same old cycles, one where you are thriving in love, another where you are trapped in struggle. Quantum mechanics suggests these are not imaginary, they exist in a field of possibility. The question is never whether they are real, but which one you will make real through the steady gaze of your awareness. Most people assume they are simply watching reality unfold, like spectators at a play. But here is the radical truth. They are not just watching, they are selecting. Each thought you dwell on, each emotion you engage, each story you repeat, is an act of observation that declares to the field, this is the version of reality I am choosing. And the field, without hesitation or judgment, responds with perfect precision. Consider the way you wake up in the morning. The moment your eyes open, you are holding the key to infinite doors. But most of humanity, out of habit, reaches for the same familiar doors. They check their problems, recall their limitations, and rehearse yesterday's disappointments. In doing so, they are not just passively noticing, they are actively collapsing the same reality into existence again. What they call being realistic is, in fact, a constant reselection of the same pattern. Here is why this matters. Reality creation is not random, and it is not ruled by luck. It is ruled by what you consistently observe with energy and emotion. If your observation is scattered, your reality feels chaotic. If your observation is consistent, your reality becomes coherent. The universe is not choosing for you, it is echoing back to you. Let's make this even more practical. Suppose there are two versions of you. In one version, you continue to believe life is a struggle and you meet every situation with doubt. In another version, you hold the quiet conviction that life bends to your growth, and you meet challenges with curiosity. Both versions exist in the field. Both are available. Which one becomes your lived experience? The one you choose to observe most often with the greatest emotional intensity. This is why people can attend motivational events, feel inspired for a day, and then sink back into old habits. Their observation shifted for a few hours, but their consistent attention soon returned to the old story. And the field simply mirrored it back. This isn't failure, it's mechanics. What is observed most often with the deepest emotional charge becomes the dominant signal. That is the version of reality that stabilizes. So the invitation here is simple, though not always easy. Begin to notice what you are actually selecting with your attention. Each time you worry, you are selecting a timeline where worry is justified. Each time you celebrate, you are selecting a timeline where celebration is natural. Each time you doubt, you are selecting a future that confirms doubt. Each time you trust, you are selecting a future that proves trust was well placed. Think about it this way. Your attention is like a voting system for the universe. Every thought, every feeling, every perception is a ballot. You don't cast one vote per day, you cast thousands. And the universe counts every single one faithfully and without opinion. Which outcome receives the majority of your votes? That is the one that becomes your reality. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A single moment of powerful visualization cannot outweigh 23 hours of unconscious fear. The field listens to the total broadcast, not the highlight moments. It hears your baseline, not just your peak. And your baseline is formed by what you repeatedly observe without even realizing it. Now pause and let that sink in. Right now, this very moment, you are choosing. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you are casting votes. And that means transformation is never waiting for the perfect external condition. It is waiting for the moment you begin to deliberately shift your gaze. So I invite you to practice something today. Just once, when you catch yourself observing life through the lens of limitation, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what timeline am I selecting right now? Then gently shift your gaze. Even if you cannot fully feel the new possibility, simply observe it. Hold it with curiosity as if it were already opening before you. This small act begins to change everything. You are not a victim of random fate. You are the selector of realities, and as you grow more aware of how consciousness chooses, you will begin to see that every moment is rich with freedom. The freedom to stop rehearsing the past, the freedom to stop confirming your fears, and the freedom to begin observing the future self that is already waiting for you. This is the power of consciousness. It does not just witness reality, it chooses it. And the choice is being made every moment you are alive. If consciousness is the mechanism that selects your reality, then attention is the steering wheel. Where you direct your focus becomes the point around which the quantum field begins to organize itself. Your attention is not casual, it is magnetic. Every second it illuminates one version of reality while leaving countless others in the dark. That is why mastering your focus is not a luxury. It is the very essence of conscious creation. Think of attention like a powerful spotlight on a stage. The stage is infinite, filled with props, backdrops, and characters that could become your experience. But wherever the spotlight falls, that is the only part of the stage the audience, your lived reality, can see. If you continuously shine the light on problems, limitations, and fear, then those elements dominate your experience. If you move the beam toward possibility, growth, and gratitude, those realities come alive. The stage has not changed, only your focus has. Let's ground this with an example. Imagine two people lose their jobs on the very same day. Person A directs their attention toward fear. What if I can't pay the bills? What if I never find another job? Their energy collapses into anxiety. The spotlight is fixed on scarcity. Person B, faced with the identical situation, directs their attention toward opportunity. What doors might be opening now? What new path is life nudging me toward? Their energy collapses into curiosity. The spotlight is fixed on possibility. And soon life mirrors each focus back. Both lost a job, but one collapses a timeline of struggle while the other collapses a timeline of expansion. The difference was not in circumstance. It was in where they placed their attention. This is why your daily focus matters more than any single breakthrough. It is not what you occasionally think about, but what you consistently dwell on that builds the architecture of your reality. Attention is accumulative. Every glance, every repeated thought, every emotional fixation adds weight to one side of the scale. The field then tips in that direction and reflects it back. The mind often tricks us into believing attention is free, that where we wander mentally has no cost. But in truth, attention is energy, and energy is creative force. When you worry, you invest energy in a future you do not want. When you celebrate, you invest energy in a future you do. The universe is not listening to your words. It is responding to where your attention rests with emotional charge. This is why some people can work harder than ever and still feel stuck, while others seem to flow effortlessly into new opportunities. The difference lies not in effort, but in focus. One pours attention into confirming obstacles. The other pours attention into envisioning possibilities. The field does not reward struggle. It rewards alignment. Now ask yourself honestly, where does your attention habitually go? When you wake up, do you immediately scan for problems, or do you pause to envision what could unfold? When you drive, are you rehearsing conflicts, or are you imagining your next chapter with clarity? When you go to sleep, are you reliving disappointments, or are you appreciating what went right? These simple observations reveal the quality of the spotlight you carry through life. I invite you to try what I call a reality audit. For just one day, notice where your attention flows in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. Write down the themes you observed. Most people are shocked to realize that 80 to 90% of their focus is on what they do not want, on what is absent, on what might go wrong. And then they wonder why their life does not change. But here is the beauty. Awareness itself creates a gap. When you become aware of where your attention has been drifting, you reclaim the ability to redirect it. In that pause, you can ask a quantum question. If what I consistently observe becomes my reality, what do I want to observe right now? That question is like turning the spotlight, and wherever you point it, reality begins to take shape. The key is not perfection. You will still have moments where your attention slips into fear or lack. That is human. The key is consistency. If you return again and again to observing possibility, the balance tips. Over time, the signal you send to the field becomes unmistakable, and reality reorganizes to match it. So remember this: your attention is not just a mental act. It is the most powerful instrument of creation you possess. Energy follows awareness, and wherever that awareness rests, life accumulates. This is the practice. Learn to aim your spotlight with intention. Direct it toward gratitude when fear wants to dominate. Direct it toward love when judgment rises. Direct it toward expansion when the old story calls you back. Each redirection is not small. It is the very act of shifting timelines. And when you begin living this way, something profound happens. Life stops feeling random. You no longer feel like a victim of chance. Instead, you realize you're a participant in a precise dance, where your focus is the rhythm and the universe is the music. Direct your attention wisely, and the melody of your life transforms. Up to this point, we've been talking about the power of observation and attention. But if you've ever wondered whether this is only philosophy or feel-good spirituality, it's important to understand that science itself has been pointing in this direction for decades. The bridge between quantum physics and spiritual science is not a metaphor. It is a living intersection where what mystics have intuited for centuries now finds confirmation in the laboratory. In classical physics, matter was thought to be the foundation of everything. Consciousness was treated as a byproduct, a kind of side effect of the brain. But the quantum revolution flipped that view on its head. The double-slit experiment, as we've already discussed, revealed that particles behave as waves of probability until the moment of observation. And the instant an observer focuses attention, the wave collapses into a defined particle. This means consciousness is not secondary, it is primary. Matter takes shape in response to awareness. Physicist Amit Goswami put it plainly. Consciousness is the foundation of reality, not the reverse. And thought leaders like Joe Dispenza and Gregg Braden have spent years showing how this principle plays out not just in the micro world of particles, but in the macro world of human lives. What you hold in sustained attention becomes the instruction that the universe responds to. The field is neutral, but your awareness gives it form. Now think about the implications. If your thoughts and feelings are waves of energy, then every time you unite them with intention, you are writing a blueprint into the field. When intention fuses with emotion, consciousness imprints a pattern strong enough to influence biology, circumstances, and outcomes. This is coherence. It is the point where your inner world lines up so clearly that the external world begins to reorganize itself. This is not theory alone. Neuroscience demonstrates that when you focus on a new thought or possibility, neurons fire and wire together, creating pathways that didn't exist before. Repetition strengthens these pathways until they become the default mode of your brain. In other words, by choosing what to observe, you are not just shifting ideas, you are sculpting the very architecture of your nervous system. This is why meditation, visualization, and intentional focus are powerful. They recondition the body to match a new reality. Ancient spiritual traditions have always taught this principle in their own language. Mystics spoke of prayer, mantras, or sacred visioning. Modern science calls it neuroplasticity and quantum coherence. Different words, same underlying truth. The invisible becomes visible when inner focus is sustained with clarity and emotion. Consciousness is not separate from creation. It is creation in action. Let's make this tangible. Suppose you want to experience more peace. You could wait for external life to quiet down before you feel peaceful. But the quantum principle suggests the opposite. Embody peace within, and the field mirrors it back. When you observe your life through the lens of stillness, you begin to draw situations, people, and outcomes that resonate with that signal. The peace you broadcast becomes the peace you live. This is why many manifestation teachings fall short. They focus on surface affirmations as though repeating words alone could move the field. But the universe does not respond to empty statements. It responds to energetic coherence. You can declare abundance 100 times a day, but if your body is vibrating with fear and unworthiness, the field reflects the stronger signal, the one you unconsciously reinforce. Real transformation begins when your thoughts, feelings, and unconscious patterns align. And here's the encouraging part. The moment you become aware of a misalignment, you've already begun to shift it. Awareness itself interrupts the old broadcast. Each time you notice that you're feeding fear and gently return to trust, you are training yourself into coherence. Each time you step back from judgment and choose gratitude, you're refining your energetic blueprint. Small choices repeated with sincerity accumulate into powerful change. Quantum physics and spiritual science are not at odds. They are allies. One gives us the language of waveforms, particles, and probabilities. The other gives us the language of faith, presence, and surrender. Together they describe the same phenomenon. Reality is pliable, responsive, and exquisitely sensitive to consciousness. The world does not move first, you do, and what you consistently hold within becomes what the field must eventually reflect without. So the question is no longer whether this works, it's how you will use it. Will you continue observing from old patterns and stabilizing what you no longer want? Or will you practice coherence, aligning thought, feeling, and intention into a single signal so clear the universe cannot help but respond? The choice, as always, is yours. At this point, it should be clear that attention is not just a mental exercise. It is an energetic command. Wherever you place your awareness, energy follows, and that energy is what begins to give form to the invisible. This is why your attention carries more weight than physical effort alone. You can push, struggle, and force with all your might, but if your attention is dwelling on fear, lack, or limitation, you are feeding those very patterns with your life force. Creation does not begin in action. It begins in observation. Think of your attention as a lens through which the raw energy of the quantum field is focused. When you concentrate light through a magnifying glass, it can burn through paper. In the same way, when you concentrate your attention through clarity and emotional engagement, you imprint reality with power. The universe does not organize itself around your passing wishes. It organizes itself around what you repeatedly attend to with feeling. This explains why cycles repeat. If you habitually focus on what's broken, what's missing, or what causes you pain, you collapse timelines that confirm those experiences. Not because you deserve suffering, but because the field responds faithfully to the signal you transmit. Identical attention creates identical outcomes. It is not punishment, it is precision. On the other hand, when you redirect your attention toward gratitude, possibility, and vision, even before evidence appears, you activate a new timeline. You begin feeding potential rather than limitation, and that potential grows stronger until it manifests. Let's bring this into the body because your body is the most immediate proof of how attention creates form. Notice what happens when you focus on tension. Perhaps your shoulders tighten, your breath shortens, and stress compounds. But if instead you bring awareness to relaxation, if you breathe into your chest, soften your muscles, and observe calm, your body responds. The simple shift in attention produces a tangible shift in form. If this is true in the microcosm of your body, imagine its impact in the macrocosm of your life. Here's a small practice I call the observer breath. Take 3 minutes and follow these steps. First, close your eyes and notice your current focus. Are you replaying a problem? Are you clinging to a worry? Second, bring your awareness to your breath and begin to inhale as though you are already in the reality you desire. Breathe as if peace is inevitable. Breathe as if abundance is already here. Third, with each exhale, release the old picture. Let it dissolve as if the field no longer needs that data. Inhale the new, exhale the old. In just a few cycles, your body begins to align with the timeline you are observing. This is not pretending. It is not delusion. It is coherence. You are teaching your body and your mind to harmonize with a vision not yet visible until it becomes visible. You are sending the signal first, trusting that form will follow. This is how energy becomes matter, how thought becomes experience, how potential becomes physical. Many people resist this truth because they want proof before they commit their attention. They say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But the universe is structured the opposite way. You will see it when you believe it, when you hold the vision long enough and consistently enough that the field has no choice but to echo it back. Attention is the seed, and reality is the harvest. You do not dig up the seed every day to check if it is working. You water it with consistent observation, and in time it grows into form. Your old identity loves to scan the evidence of your current life and declare, "This is who I am. This is all there is." But your quantum self knows that what you observe now is only a reflection of what you've been feeding with attention. The real question is not what reality currently shows you, but what reality you will choose to observe next. So pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what am I giving my attention to right now? Am I feeding the old or am I feeding the new? Am I empowering my limitations or am I empowering my possibilities? Every answer you give, consciously or unconsciously, is shaping the form of your life. And here is the empowering truth. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to become more consistent. Each time you shift your attention, you tip the scales toward a new reality. Each time you hold a vision with emotional presence, you give it weight in the quantum field. Over time, those small acts of attention accumulate into a transformation so profound it feels like a miracle. But it is not a miracle. It is mechanics. Your attention is the activation key. Use it with intention and the invisible becomes visible. If attention is the activation key, then coherence is the lock it must fit into. Without coherence, your attention is scattered. You may declare abundance, but your emotions are still vibrating scarcity. You may visualize love, but your unconscious beliefs whisper that you're unworthy. You may intend success, but your nervous system is firing signals of fear. The field receives all of these mixed messages at once, and the result is confusion. A little progress here, a setback there, moments of breakthrough followed by long plateaus. Nothing is wrong with you, it's simply that incoherence creates static in the signal. Think of coherence like tuning into a radio station. When you're perfectly aligned, the music comes through clear and strong. When you're slightly off, the sound is distorted with static. The station is always broadcasting, but whether you hear it depends on your alignment. In the same way, the field is always responsive, but whether it reflects your intentions depends on the harmony between your thoughts, feelings, and unconscious beliefs. When these parts of you vibrate in sync, the universe mirrors the signal quickly and cleanly. So how do you achieve coherence? The first step is self-awareness. Begin by noticing the gap between what you consciously say you want and what you unconsciously expect. If you affirm abundance in the morning but spend the rest of the day scanning for evidence of lack, your signal is split. If you visualize health but constantly observe your body as broken, your attention contradicts itself. Coherence begins when you stop fighting yourself and start uniting your inner world around a single vision. Here's a simple practice to bring coherence into your day. I call it the 5-minute alignment. First, prepare your body. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and breathe slowly until you feel your nervous system soften. Second, choose one clear intention. Let it be specific enough to focus your attention, but expansive enough to carry emotion. For example, I am embodying peace in every cell of my body, or I am open to receiving opportunities that expand my life. Third, invite your emotions to join the thought. Ask yourself, and if this were already real, how would I feel? Let your body generate that feeling: relief, gratitude, joy. Fourth, linger in that state. Hold it, not with force, but with gentle presence. Finally, open your eyes and carry a fragment of that coherence into whatever comes next in your day. Even if you only manage this for a few minutes, it is enough to shift the signal. Why? Because the field does not require endless effort. It requires clarity and consistency. A single coherent broadcast repeated often is more powerful than 1,000 scattered signals. Each time you practice, you train your nervous system to accept the new pattern as familiar. Eventually, it becomes your baseline. This is where neuroscience and mysticism meet. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself according to repeated focus. Mysticism calls it prayer, meditation, or devotion. Both describe the same process. Repetition with emotion reshapes your internal state until the external world has no choice but to reflect it. It's important to remember that coherence is not perfection. You will still experience doubt, fear, or old patterns resurfacing. Coherence does not mean erasing them. It means choosing again and again to return to alignment. Just as a musician continually tunes their instrument, you continually tune your inner world. Each return strengthens the signal. Each return tells the field, this is who I am, this is the frequency I choose. And the results can be extraordinary. People who practice coherence often find that opportunities, synchronicities, and breakthroughs appear with surprising speed. It is not because the universe suddenly favored them. It is because the signal they were broadcasting finally became clear enough for the field to reflect without distortion. The difference between waiting for change and living change lies in whether your attention, emotions, and beliefs are playing the same song. So here is your invitation. Treat your focus as sacred. Do not casually scatter it across fear, gossip, or self-doubt. Begin monitoring your inner state as though it were the most precious resource you own, because it is. Notice the moments when your body resists the vision you are holding. Instead of judging, gently guide yourself back. Whisper, I choose alignment. This is not denial. It is devotion. You are devoting your energy to the future you are choosing, rather than to the past you are replaying. With time, coherence stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like home. Your body learns it. Your mind trusts it. Your soul recognizes it. And when that happens, the line between inner world and outer world begins to blur. You no longer wait for evidence to feel a certain way. You feel it first and reality follows. This is the essence of quantum coherence. Not demanding results, but embodying the frequency until results cannot help but appear. When you achieve this state, your life becomes less about chasing outcomes and more about radiating the energy that draws them. And in that shift, the struggle dissolves, replaced by the steady flow of creation. Once you begin to experience coherence, you notice something extraordinary. The universe does not need convincing. It does not test your worthiness. It does not withhold blessings. And it does not sit in judgment. It simply responds. Always, without exception, it reflects the frequency you broadcast. This is both the most humbling and the most liberating realization you can ever encounter. For most of our lives, we've been taught to believe that outcomes depend on luck, on hard work, or on forces outside of us. We've been conditioned to think that the universe might favor some while ignoring others, that we must prove ourselves or earn the right to abundance, love, or peace. But quantum understanding shows something different. The field is neutral. It doesn't reward or punish, it mirrors. What you habitually observe and emotionally sustain, it reflects back with precision. This explains why life sometimes feels contradictory. You may visualize prosperity, yet continue to vibrate scarcity in your daily emotions. You may affirm love while silently fearing rejection. You may hope for freedom while broadcasting the energy of control and doubt. And then you wonder why results are mixed, why a little progress comes only to vanish. The answer is not that the universe is against you. The answer is that the field is reflecting two different signals at once. When you grasp this, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And instead ask, what am I consistently broadcasting? That simple shift changes everything. It moves you from victim consciousness into creator consciousness. The moment you realize the field is not judging you but echoing you, you reclaim total responsibility for your frequency. You see clearly that the universe is not personal. It is precise. Think of it like a mirror. If you frown into a mirror, the reflection will not smile back. It is not punishing you, it is reflecting you. If you want to see a smile, you change your expression. Reality works the same way. Most people spend their lives trying to polish the mirror, rearrange the reflection, or demand it change first. But the reflection cannot shift until you do. This understanding can feel uncomfortable at first, because it means you can no longer blame circumstances for everything. But that discomfort is a doorway into empowerment. Because if the universe is not withholding, then nothing is truly in your way except your own vibration. You are free to recalibrate at any moment. You are free to release the old broadcast and begin sending a new one, regardless of what your current reality looks like. The practice begins by becoming intimate with your emotional baseline. Not the fleeting highs of excitement or the temporary lows of disappointment, but the state you live in most of the time. Is your baseline anxiety, doubt, gratitude, peace? That baseline is the true signal the field reads, and it is the soil from which your life continually grows. If you want to change the harvest, you must tend to the soil. Start small. Instead of trying to manipulate outcomes, focus on cultivating your state. Each time you notice fear rising, ask, what state would I rather live in? Each time doubt appears, choose to lean into trust, even if only for a breath. Each time you find yourself rehearsing limitation, pause and redirect. This is not about denying reality. It is about remembering that reality is reflecting you, not determining you. Over time, consistency replaces struggle. You stop needing to force things into place because the field naturally aligns with your sustained signal. Life begins to feel less like pushing a boulder uphill and more like being carried by a current that matches your flow. The universe is not resisting you, it is synchronizing with you. And here is the beauty. The more you align, the faster the reflection shifts. What used to take months or years can happen in days or even hours because the signal is clear. The universe does not delay when coherence is present. It does not test you. It simply reflects immediately and faithfully. So pause and ask yourself, what frequency am I living in right now? Not just during meditation or visualization, but in the quiet moments, in the way I breathe, in the way I speak, in the way I see myself. That is the broadcast the universe hears most clearly. And that is the reality it will mirror without fail. This is why the universe simply responds. It is not judging, it is not rewarding, it is not punishing, it is reflecting. And once you know this, the only true question is, what will you choose to broadcast next? If the universe simply responds to what you broadcast, then the next great frontier is not only your conscious focus, but the unconscious patterns running beneath it. Because while you may devote minutes each day to affirming abundance or visualizing love, your unconscious is active 24 hours a day, and more often than not, it is that background signal, your default reactions, your habitual emotions, your repeated inner stories, that the field picks up most strongly. This is why so many people feel stuck. They say all the right words, they picture all the right outcomes, but deep down they continue to observe life through the lens of their old identity. They see themselves as limited, as unworthy, as someone who never quite gets what they want. And the universe, neutral and precise, reflects those unconscious observations back. It is not personal, it is mechanical. To break free, you must become aware of the unconscious script that has been quietly directing your life. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a theater. On the stage is the story you consciously tell yourself. I want to be successful. I am choosing joy. I am open to love. But behind the curtain, a different story is being whispered. I'll probably fail, I'm not enough, people can't be trusted. That whisper is powerful because it runs automatically without your awareness. And if you do not bring it to light, it continues to broadcast. So how do you shift it? The first step is noticing. Begin to observe your automatic thoughts and emotional reactions without judgment. When someone criticizes you, what story immediately plays? When you face a challenge, what expectation rises first? These are not random, they are rehearsed lines in your unconscious script. The act of noticing them already begins to loosen their grip. Awareness is the first wedge of freedom. The second step is softening. Instead of wrestling with the old pattern, meet it with compassion. If you hear the thought, I'll never have enough, rather than pushing it away, acknowledge it. I see you. You've been trying to protect me by keeping me cautious. but I choose differently now. By softening rather than resisting, you create space for change. Resistance feeds the old pattern. Compassion dissolves it. The third step is choosing anew. Each time you catch yourself rehearsing the old script, pause and redirect your observation. Declare, "This isn't the story I'm living anymore." Then shift your focus to a new lens. I am supported, I am growing, I am already becoming the person who belongs in this new reality. This isn't about forcing belief, it's about repeatedly choosing the new observation until it stabilizes. Over time, the new story gains strength, while the old one loses momentum. Like a trail in the forest that grows over when it's no longer walked, unconscious patterns fade when you stop feeding them with attention. And in their place, new pathways form, pathways of trust, possibility, and expansion. This is the deeper layer of reality creation that many manifestation teachings overlook. It is not enough to sprinkle affirmations on top of unconscious fear. The field hears the loudest signal, and that is often the one running beneath your awareness. To shift your life, you must shift the story you live in every moment, even when you are not trying. Think of it this way. If you want a garden of roses but you keep watering weeds, which will thrive? The soil does not discriminate. It nourishes whatever receives attention. Your unconscious patterns are the weeds. Your conscious vision is the rose. The only way the rose can grow is if you redirect the water, your attention, away from the weeds and toward the bloom you truly desire. So the invitation is clear. Begin paying attention not just to what you want, but to what you unconsciously feed. Become intimate with the stories you tell when no one is listening. And when you find they no longer serve you, practice the courage of redirection. Again and again, choose the new lens. Choose the new. Breaking free from unconscious patterns is not about erasing your past. It is about reclaiming your present. It is about remembering that at any moment you can stop rehearsing the old script and start observing a new one. And when you do, the universe, faithful as ever, will respond. There is a deeper state of awareness that every teaching points toward, a state that cannot be forced, cannot be faked, and cannot be reached through constant striving. It is the state of the silent observer. This is not a mystical character outside of you. It is the most essential part of who you are. It is the awareness that watches without judgment, that notices without grasping, that remains steady no matter what storms pass through your life. The silent observer is powerful precisely because it does not struggle. Most people try to change their reality by pushing, fixing, and demanding. They fight their thoughts. They wrestle their emotions. They chase outcomes. But in doing so, they unknowingly feed the very patterns they want to escape. The silent observer does something different. It simply watches. It sees thoughts as clouds passing through the sky. It sees emotions as waves rising and falling on the ocean. It recognizes that no single moment defines the whole. By refusing to collapse into panic or resistance, the silent observer allows the field to reorganize naturally. This is why mystics, saints, and teachers across time have spoken about stillness. Reality does not shift because you scream at it. It shifts because you witness with clarity. In quantum terms, the wave of possibility collapses not through effort, but through observation. And when your observation is calm, coherent, and unwavering, reality bends with surprising speed. To live as the silent observer does not mean to be passive or detached from life. It means to hold the center, to rest in a place of trust so deep that you no longer feel the need to control every detail. You act when action is inspired, not from desperation. You speak when words are aligned, not from fear of silence. You wait when waiting is wisdom, not from paralysis, but from clarity. From this place, outcomes often arrive on their own, drawn by the quiet magnetism of presence. You can begin practicing this state in small ways. The next time an old story surfaces, pause. Instead of reacting, simply notice. Say to yourself, I see this thought, but I am not this thought. I am the one who observes. The next time a strong emotion rises, breathe into it without judgment. Allow it to move through, the way thunder passes across a summer sky. Each time you return to this perspective, you strengthen the muscle of the silent observer. And here is the paradox. The less you try to force change, the more effortlessly change happens. When you stop amplifying fear with resistance, fear begins to dissolve. When you stop grasping for outcomes, opportunities flow more naturally. When you release the noise of constant doing, the clarity of being shines through. Living as the silent observer is not withdrawal from life. It is alignment with the essence of life. It is the recognition that the field is always reflecting your state, and that the clearest state you can embody is one of presence. From that presence, you attract not through effort but through resonance. So take a moment now. Breathe deeply. Feel yourself sitting here reading these words. Notice the space between your thoughts. That space is you, the silent observer. And in that space, creation is already taking shape. Every transformation eventually leads to this threshold, the release of the old identity. Because no matter how much you learn about observation, coherence, and the silent witness within you, if you keep clinging to the version of yourself built from past wounds, familiar patterns, and outdated stories, you will keep collapsing the same timelines. The universe can only mirror back the signal you embody, and if your identity is still entangled with the old self, the field will continue to echo it. Most people underestimate how tightly they grip their old identity. It hides in subtle places, in the way you introduce yourself, in the roles you replay, and the excuses you offer. It whispers, "This is who I am, and this is how life works for me." But identity is not fixed. It is a lens, and every lens can be exchanged. To release an identity is not to erase your past. It is to stop rehearsing it as the script for your future. Here's a simple practice to begin this release. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down the traits, beliefs, or stories of the self you are ready to let go of. I am always struggling. I never get chosen. Money is hard. Love is fragile. Write them with honesty, without shame. Then one by one, breathe deeply and imagine exhaling each story out of your body. Feel it leave your cells as though your very breath is clearing space. Finally, speak a new declaration. I am free to choose again. I am aligned with a new self who knows abundance, love, and peace. This small ritual anchors the truth that you are not chained to who you were. You are free to embody who you choose. Releasing the old identity does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens each time you decline to repeat the old story and instead observe from the perspective of the new. It happens each time you notice yourself slipping into, "This is just how I am," and gently correct it to, "This is how I was, but not who I am becoming." Every act of release opens space for the new self to take root. Remember this. Your old identity will try to pull you back because it craves familiarity. But the quantum field is not loyal to your past. It is loyal to your present signal. The moment you consistently observe yourself as the new identity, the field reshapes to match it. So let this be your final step in this journey. Release the grip of who you thought you had to be. Step into the truth of who you are choosing to be now. Observe from that place. Live from that place. And watch as reality, faithful as always, rises to meet you.